Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams. Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dave. I'm joined as always by the other host, Ike. Ike, how are you?
I am tired, man. I stayed up too late last night watching TV.
You know, I did too, and I slept a little later than I normally do this morning. No big deal. I mean, I wasn't late logging on or anything like that for work, but yeah, I did too. I get caught up in Supernatural, and it happens all the time. But yeah, I'm tired too. But I feel like sometimes I stay in a perpetual state of tiredness.
Right.
Too much to do, too much to watch. It's just like, man, downtime is in a premium right now for me.
I feel that. But
Well,
outside of being tired.
Yeah, all's well, huh?
Right. Otherwise, all's well in the world.
Got an air quality warning here, for the wildfire thing, but I don't really go outside, so I'm pretty good. I'm an indoor animal. No, I go outside some, but I don't through the work week. I don't go out near as much. So so I ain't worrying about it too much. I'm not breathing it in. But anyway, this is a horror podcast, contrary to what you may think from the opening few minutes of the show. And we'll kick things off, we'd like to say thank you to our wives. We do this every episode because they support us, they help us, and occasionally they come on and guest on the show, and it's debatable whether we thank them for that or not, but nonetheless, thank you for their support and help with the podcast. And Ike, this week we watched Unwelcome on Shudder because we had something weird happen. And I don't know where it fell apart, because I was 99% sure that when I had done research, and Monica had done some research, and all these things that we saw that Quicksand was coming out on June 23rd on Shudder. But then we both simultaneously kind of hit the roadblock and texted each other, hey, we both logged on and it says like July 14th for Quicksand. So it was very weird. I don't know what happened. I don't know if we were incorrect in the date. I don't know if Shudder changed the date. It's very, very odd.
100% Shudder changed the date. I'm just throwing this out there real quick. I forgot to mention it to Dave earlier, but I went online, did a little Google search, and it still shows the release date is the 23rd, like on movieweb.com. We have the 23rd on IMDb. We have the 23rd on Sportskeeda. But there is Movie Insider, which says that it is set to release July 14th. So
yeah, that's crazy. Well, it definitely is, because like I said, we both went onto the app and that's what it says on the app. So that's official from Shudder. So it was kind of like whatever, fourth and goal, and we were down to the last hope here, and it's like, oh crap, what do we do now? Well, the movie Unwelcome had just come out on the I believe on the 23rd as well. So I don't know if they switched the two. I don't know what happened. So we thought, hey, let's do Unwelcome instead. We're just plugging in another Shudder movie for that one. All's good. So contrary to what we said last episode, we are not reviewing Quicksand, and we are instead reviewing the movie Unwelcome, which we will talk about later. So besides that, Ike, what'd you watch this week?
Yeah, this week, honestly, it was a light week. I won't lie to you. I went and saw The Flash over the weekend. It's just not horror, but I just wanted to mention it. It was super good. But I think the main thing that I watched again, not so much horror, but we've been trying to finish it, was the show Manifest.
Yep.
It's on Netflix. They released the second half of the fourth season, so the show's over now officially. So that was the reason why I was up late last night. We were down to the last episode, and it was probably like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, I don't want to leave one episode. I just want to go ahead and finish it. So we stayed up and watched it, but super good show. I would say it's probably more classified like a thriller, like a mystery thriller.
Yeah.
but it still has some of those like spooky aspects, some of that supernatural-esqueness to it, and it was good. It was really good. Manifest is a solid show. I'd recommend anybody watches it. And it's not super long either. It's 4 seasons, and maybe the first 3 seasons I think are like in the ballpark of 10 episodes, and the 4 seasons 20 episodes, but it's like 2 parts basically. So realistically, it could have been 5 seasons. Just I think that Netflix was trying to just get what they could out.
Yeah.
But
Well,
otherwise not much.
well, I had a busy week watching. I had a busy day watching today because for some reason I had several new things that I wanted to watch that all came out today, and I didn't get through them all. None of them horror related. Some of them are very odd. It's very eclectic. It's very defining of me. I watch the series on Paramount Plus. It's probably about the only reality series I've ever watched in my life. I think it's called The Family Stallone. It's about Sly Stallone and his family, and I only watch it because I love Sly Stallone. And those episodes drop on Wednesday, so I had the final episode of that to watch today. It was okay. And then on Netflix today, the short series documentary on the American Gladiators from the 90s came out, which I desperately want to watch, but I didn't get to that. So I'm looking forward to that because I loved the American Gladiators when I was younger. So I'm looking forward to watching that. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm a wrestling fan, and I love the series that's out called Dark Side of the Ring. And those episodes come out on Wednesdays, and I get them. And the episode, they come out they air on Tuesday, but I buy them on Vudu on Wednesdays. And the episode this week was on the Junkyard Dog, so I was very excited to watch that. So I watched that. So I had all that non-horror stuff to watch. But then this past week, I'm still on my going through the In Search of Darkness checklist and watching things that I've maybe not seen or had not seen for a long time. So I watched several things. I've watched Return of the Living Dead from 1985, which I've always loved, and I just really wanted to rewatch. I've watched it many times, but I love that movie.
Solid movie.
Yeah, it's so fun. I watched The House on Sorority Row from 1982. I watched Dolls from 1987, which was super creepy. I hate dolls, and it was really super creepy for me. Even though the movie, it was okay, and it probably wouldn't wig many people out, but because I hate dolls so much, it wigged me out. And then I went down a rabbit hole and watched Stepfather 1, 2, and 3. And they progressively got worse. They weren't any of them I would say were really bad. The first one was really good and really creepy. 2 was pretty good, and then 3 was it was not as good. But it had but 1 and 2's got I think his name's Terry O'Quinn from Lost is in it.
Yeah.
And so they were super good. The third one did not have him in it, and they explained that by saying he got plastic surgery in a very almost a Batman 89 Joker-esque type scenario where he went to this this shady guy. It was weird, but yeah, that's what I watched. So like I said, I've got the checklist from the In Search of Darkness documentary that I watched where they show all the movies that they discussed and mentioned, and I'm just literally going through it. I'm like, oh, I haven't watched that, or I haven't watched that in a while, one or the other, and then looking up, and it's some of them I can't find, so I'm going to have to go look for some physical media on some of these because I don't know, the streaming rights are probably in limbo or whatever, one of those kind of things. So, but that's what I watched. Like I said, I watched a lot. And then of course Supernatural, which I always watch. There's never a day goes by that I don't watch Supernatural. So that's just what it is. Are you
Huh?
huh?
I was gonna say you mentioned wrestling, and I totally forgot I was gonna mention this. It's not horror related. The character is kind of horror related, but I finally got around to watching the docu-series Undertaker Last Ride. It's like the 4-part docu-series, basically about it's about his career ultimately, but like he's retired. Right, him wrapping up on because he wanted to retire and stuff, and it was very interesting. It was really interesting to watch this, and it's just crazy all the shit that his body's been through and stuff. I mean, again, I know it's not horror related, so I won't drone on it too much, but yeah, it's crazy.
It's a very weird thing though, because it's still very uncomfortable for me to see him break character because he never did. So it's still very odd. All these other guys can break character, and it's like whatever. It is what it is nowadays. But with him, it was always weird to see. It's always weird to see him break character, but whatever. And but before we dive into our weekly segment, We talked last episode just a bit about, hey, we ought to put out there, what is the worst horror movie that you've ever seen? And then at some point in time, we'll review that. Well, I threw that out there on social media, on all the social media platforms, and we got some response. And let's just scroll through what some of these people are saying, right? And we'll, if we want to comment, we'll comment. If not, we'll just move on. So again, my exact post was not to be negative, but we want to know what you think is the worst horror movie ever. And we know this is subjective, and I'm not trying to put down any movies or any movies anybody enjoys. But, you know, we tend to, a lot of times, like we said, if it's not a new movie, we tend to watch a movie that we already know we like, or that we're going to praise. So that kind of spawned this discussion a little bit of, hey, what if we purposely watched a movie that would probably incite some negative reaction from us? And I don't know that all these would, but we had here, we're on Twitter. We had some people that say The Exorcist 2, The Heretic. Somebody said Jeepers Creepers 3, which, yes, that's not good.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and The Lords of Salem, and a movie called Auto Transfusion. I've not seen Auto Transfusion. I am not a big fan of the Halloween 2 from Rob Zombie. I'm not a huge fan of either of them, but I like the second one even less. Lords of Salem, I don't know. It's not great. I don't know if I'd call it the worst of all time, but
I was gonna say Lords of Salem, in my opinion, is one of Rob Zombie's better movies. I mean,
it's weird.
Take that for what you will, but.
And then somebody commented a movie called Anglerfish, which I've never heard of in my life, but I'm very my curiosity is piqued, so we'll have to look onto that. This person replied that if you're discussing big budget movies, it's Midsommar, which I see a lot of people give that heat. I don't know why.
Know.
And then if
not to talk smack, but Midsommar I think is probably one of one of the best horror movies from like the last 5 years. But I mean,
yeah, I see that it gets some online heat though. It's very peculiar. And then if they said that if you include trash tier garbage, which I'm assuming is that's their phrase for lower budget movies, they say Creatures from the Abyss, which I've never seen that. And then this person did not reply a movie, but just said there is no bottom. No matter how deep you dig, there's some bullshit that you just couldn't even imagine existed, which I agree. And then let's see if we jump over to Facebook. Here's another vote for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I don't know if this is the same person on two platforms or not, but and then Monica chimed in, and I think this might have been pointed at you, Ike. She commented, and I think she also put this on Instagram as well. She commented, "It Follows," which
yeah.
she knows that you enjoy, and she does not like it. So
see, here's the deal. I have not gotten a substantial response out of Monica regarding why she dislikes this movie, other than she doesn't like the concept of like basically like a ghost that is transmitted through sex, because she thinks it's like an STD or something like that, which is the whole point of the movie. So I don't know. I cannot take people seriously because me and Dave have also a mutual friend, whom I'll refer to him by his Twitter handle, Salsa Shark. He does not like the movie either, and he has heavy criticism for it. But it's never a substantial criticism. It's always something minute that really doesn't have any bearing on the movie. But I don't know. Honestly, I think him and Monica have very same track of mind when it comes to hating movies.
yeah, well, perhaps we'll do a wise rebuttal sometime and let you and Monica have a nice discussion on It Follows. So,
oh boy.
But then someone commented, "Return to Sleepaway Camp," where they said that it could have been so good had it had decent writers, but instead we got Angela dressed as a male cop speaking through a voice box, and good kid camper who is quite possibly the whiniest character ever on screen. Who, within 2 minutes of seeing on screen, you want the killer to get him.
True.
And then someone commented, "The last two Halloweens." Somebody commented, "Any of the Hellraiser movies because they just couldn't get past the needles." Apparently, they do not like needles, so that alone kind of set them off. Oh, here's another person that commented, "Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was rough, but it had some good scenes. Seed of Chucky, though, that shouldn't even be considered a horror movie. It's comedy that's trying really hard to be funny, but failing." I would agree. Seed of Chucky, not so good. We had that discussion. If anybody wants to go back and talk about or listen to our Child's Play franchise review, we talked in length about this. This person says, easy. The Messengers with Kristen Stewart. I like bad horror movies, but this was so offensively boring and unoriginal that it was painful. It has never left the number one spot on my shit list. I don't think I have seen The Messengers. Like, you ever seen that?
I've never seen it. I have heard of it though. I've seen it on other lists where people are like, "This is like the worst movie ever."
I feel like I need to watch it now.
Same.
Just to see if it is as bad as claimed. I do know that I'm not a big Kristen Stewart fan, so I liked her in The Runaways, and that's about it. I mean, I'm sure she's done some okay things. I will be honest, I've not seen anything that she's done anywhere in the near past, but it is what it is. So okay, but anyway, that was the discussion we had online about what people thought were the worst horror movies of all time, and maybe sometime when we have a whole, we'll just do an episode without a specific review. Maybe we'll just do the vague topic, and we'll do a countdown of what we think are some of the worst horror movies of all time. Maybe we'll do that, like one of our franchise review, but a quality review or something. Who knows where we'll be? But we do have some big movies coming up the year, so it'll have to be where there is a hole somewhere. So, but before we get into the news and reviews and all that, we have our weekly segment, so let's dive into Stump the Cohost. All right, and on this episode, we are playing Stump the Cohost. This is our horror trivia game where Ike and I have the exact same horror trivia game decks, and we each pick 2 cards at random out of our shuffle deck. We will ask each other these trivia questions. It's a total of 4 trivia questions. And then at the end of the episode, or at the end of the segment, we see who wins for that episode at the end of the year. Then we'll see who is the yearly horror trivia champ for the podcast. As we stand right now, Ike, you are 1-0-1, and I am 0-1-1. So I have got to get a win today to even this out. So here we go. Ike, do you have your cards?
I have my cards ready to go.
All right, since you're in the lead, I'm going to ask you first, put you on the spot, put you on defense right off the bat. Here we go. The question is, what holiday-themed movie featured a crazed miner and a pickaxe?
Why, that would be My Bloody Valentine.
It would indeed. Why? See, last time we played, you got ones that I knew, and I got these ones about obscure movies from the early 50s that even I didn't know. So let's see what we have today. So, all right, go ahead. Lay it on me. What is my first question?
Your first question is, the late Alea starred in which 2002 movie based on the Anne Rice book series, The Vampire Chronicles?
Well, I don't know. Ooh, interesting. Well, I don't know if it fits the time frame or not, but I'm going to have to say Interview with the Vampire.
That would be a negative, Ghost Rider. It is Queen of the Damned.
Ah, yes, I totally forgot about the movie. I knew there was other movie. And I knew Interview from the Vampire was before 2002, but I couldn't think of anything else. Great. Now I'm already behind. All right, Ike, here's your second question. In the movie Predator, what substance conceals the character Dutch from the creature?
Oh, isn't it just mud?
It is mud. My goodness. See, here we are. 2 questions that I would have gotten. Wow. Okay. Go ahead, Ike. Give me my second question. Let's see how badly I can bomb this episode.
I feel pretty confident you'll get this one.
Don't put pressure on me.
So it's a quote, and you have to name the movie this quote is from.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play?
Well, I'm assuming that is from Child's Play.
That would be correct.
All right. Well, at least I'm on the board.
He's on the board, folks.
I'm still down 2-1, but we'll see. All right, Ike, your third question is, in the 1984 movie Silent Night, Deadly Night, who does the murderer dress up as? Seriously?
That would be good old Saint Nick, Santa Claus.
Yes, it would be. Good grief. So, see, you're now up 3-1. That means I have to get my last 2 questions, and you have to miss your final question just for me to get a draw. Great. All right, Ike, go ahead and lay the third question on me. Let's see what we got.
All right. We have okay, hopefully I pronounce this right, but Ju-on, it's Ju-on, was the inspiration for what American horror film?
I don't know. Let's go for it. Let's call it The Ring.
You're really close. It's not The Ring. It is The Grudge.
Ah. Oh, well, there we go. You've already won this week, but we'll finish up just so we can apparently have fun. That's what this is supposed to be.
It's funny because The Ring is also a foreign movie, but it's called Ringu.
There you go. Well, all right. Here is your final question for this episode. What movie franchise that began in 2004 featured torturous traps, self-amputations, and buckets full of blood?
Why, that would be Saw.
Sure would. Saw. You got all 4 right this week.
I did.
All right.
I had easy ones this week.
That's right. Go ahead and lay my final question on me.
All right. So, subjects believe they are part of a study on insomnia and may end up being terrorized by Hugh Crane's ghost in what 1999 film?
Well, I feel like I should know this. Why am I shooting a blank on this? What? Well, why? Why do I not know? I don't know. What is it? I'm shooting a complete blank on this. I'm so flustered now with the game.
It's called The Haunting. Is that movie? Is that Liam Neeson?
I think so. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if Liam Neeson's in it.
Wait, let me look. The Haunting. I feel like I've heard this movie. The Haunting.
Yeah, I've heard of the movie too.
Yep, it's Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson, Lily Taylor.
Yeah. Well, my goodness. I am. Well, I'm not doing well. All right, Ike. So I'm just rallying. All right. I'm putting myself in a hole so I can do the late rally and look and make the baby face come back. So.
That's right. Boot and rally.
Yeah, so you are now up 2 wins, no losses, and 1 draw. I am now no wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. So, boy, oh boy. There you have it. There is Stump the Cohost. And the funny thing is, I know there are people out there listening that when these things happen, and these questions come up and we don't get them or whatever, they're like yelling at their listening device and calling us everything in the book. And well, we're sorry that we disappointed anybody out there with our non-knowledge of these things. So, except for Ike, who got all the questions that would have been in my wheelhouse again.
Right. That's always how it happens, isn't it?
I guess so. But all I can think is though that these questions are somewhere in your deck for me too as well. So maybe I'll come across them.
That is true. That is true. Fingers crossed. Well, I guess you're crossing your fingers.
I'm crossing my fingers. You have no reason to. All right, let's take a quick breath. Take a quick break, excuse me. Let me cry in my beer for a moment and lick my wounds. And then when we come back, we'll have news, movie anniversaries, and some upcoming releases. Make sure you subscribe to Listen to Their Screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 in Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
And we are back with the news. Spreading the news. All right. So not a whole lot of actual news.
No.
We have a couple. Or go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say there wasn't really a whole lot that I saw this week.
So I do have 2 things I want to mention before we get into like anniversaries and stuff. So it's kind of newsworthy, but if anybody doesn't know, you go to McDonald's, you can get the new Grimace milkshake. And TikTok has created a very wonderful trend where people are making like miniature horror movies with the Grimace milkshake. They're very entertaining, so go check that out if you like TikTok. If not, that's okay. But I also want to mention, it was recently announced that there is going to be a Goosebumps revival. It is called Goosebumps Resurrection. It is going to be a 10-episode series. It's going to be on Disney Plus. There is no official release date as of today. However, our boy Justin Long is going to be in the series.
Wow, I like that. Hopefully
That's what I
they
said.
hopefully they give it the vibe and feel of the original, right? Kind of stay true to that, and I mean, stay true to some of the source books and stuff. That's exciting. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said. I was like, I'm pretty pumped, and it's going to be on Disney Plus. So, I know I have that, so it'll be good. I think it'll be good. We'll
There you
have
go.
to see. All right. So now we have some upcoming birthdays, and we actually have some really good birthdays. June and July have been really good birthday months and movie months so far. Um, but some upcoming birthdays: July 1st, 1952, Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters. Also, he has a vodka called Crystal Skull Vodka, and he's kind of batshit insane right now. So that's a good time.
Yeah, he's interesting. He has a lot of belief in paranormal, extraterrestrial life, so on and so forth. But that's okay. It's all good. I love Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, I do too. Dan Aykroyd's a really great actor. Obviously, he's a legend. And I heard he's going to be in because they're coming out with another Ghostbusters movie, and I heard he's coming back for that too. So
Yes.
hopefully we'll see him soon. And then another legend coming right at you again, July 1st, 1930. Mustafa Akkad, the producer of the Halloween series. He's now deceased. I believe he was he was in a plane crash, wasn't he? Or
Maybe.
something like that. But yeah, I mean, Mustafa Akkad, legendary, did a lot for the Halloween franchise. If anybody ever gets a chance, I highly recommend. There's the series called The Movies That Made Us on
Mhm.
Netflix, and they do one about Halloween, and they actually talk a lot about Mustafa Akkad's, his contribution to the series.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly believed in the franchise, and I mean, without him, there probably wouldn't have been a franchise, much less the number of movies, because he was always there, right? He was always supporting, always back in it, and yeah, and I believe his son have kind of picked up the reins and taken over some of his production stuff, and and that part of it and stuff. So, if I'm remembering right, so. But yeah, definitely. I mean,
I think so.
just for that alone, I mean, definitely a legend in the horror genre, just for his contribution to the Halloween movie series.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we have one more birthday on July 3rd, just a day before the 4th. July 3rd, 1973, we have Patrick Wilson from The Conjuring and the Insidious movies. You also may know him as was a Seamaster from the Aquaman movie,
Yeah, and
Ocean Master.
he's also a night owl in the Watchmen movie and stuff. So yeah, he's I mean been in lots of fun stuff. But I mean in the Conjuring series, the Insidious, I mean, so it's gonna be a big year for him this year.
It
So
really is. It
been
really
busy.
is. Yeah, no, for sure. The Insidious movie is going to be insane. So he's going to be doing press for that, and then like you said, there's going to be another Conjuring movie he's going to be doing press for. So like you said, he's going to be pretty jam packed this year.
Yep.
But very cool, very cool. So those are our birthdays. We do have one anniversary, and I've actually never seen this movie, but July 2nd, 1986, we have Psycho 3 was released, and I've never seen Psycho 3. Have you seen this one, Dave?
I have. It's not as good as one, not as good as two. It's interesting. I'm pretty sure Anthony Perkins either directed or something. He had much more hand, and it was a little wilder, right? He really kind of went balls to the wall with his vision and it kind of experiment. I don't know. It's a little wacky, really, but it's okay. But again, in my book, not as good as the one or two. So
Fair enough. I'll have to check that out. I've never seen the second Psycho, but I actually read an article the other day. It was talking about surprisingly good horror movie sequels, and Psycho 2 was on the list. So
yeah,
was go ahead.
Psycho 2 is pretty good.
Yeah. So I'll have to check it out sometime. I'm sure it'd be worth it, worth my while. But All right. I think that's all the anniversaries, birthdays that we have. But we do have a couple of upcoming movie releases, which will be pretty cool. One of these, Dave and I have actually talked about prior to our conversation here today. But on July 21st, we have Natty Knox. It's going to be a limited theater run with a video on demand release as well. It's going to be starring legends Danielle Harris, Robert Englund, and Bill Moseley, and is directed by the Halloween Forward director Dwight H. Little. It is described as a small-town babysitter and the kids she is looking after struggle to survive a serial killer on Halloween Eve. The first trailer was recently released, and Dave and I both watched it, and it was actually pretty good looking. It didn't have that low budget feel to it. It seemed like a pretty high tier production, and it has the return of some pretty fantastic actors. So I'm pretty excited for it. It looks good, I think.
I am super excited for this. I mean, when you have those kind of names in it and everything else, and I mean, you hear that description and you hear the words babysitter, Halloween Eve, serial killer. I mean, you obviously just from that line, you get Halloween vibes, and I'm sure it's not that, but you do have the Halloween 4 director, you do have Danielle Harris in it, but and I love Robert Englund. I'm super excited for this movie. Again, it comes out July 21st, and I venture to guess, I believe the episode after that will be on July 27th that will be released, and I'm pretty sure I would say it's a safe bet to say that we'll be reviewing it that episode.
Yeah, probably. I'd have to say so. Unless something else crazy happens and they decide to, release it on a different day and pull a shutter. I don't know. But and we've talked about this other movie, this other upcoming release. Still have a little bit of ways away for this one, but we have talked about it a little bit. But they released the first official trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's. This is going to be released on October 27th, 2023. It is also getting a simultaneous release, I believe, to either Paramount or Peacock, from what I heard.
Yeah.
So it'll be video on demand, same days in theaters, which I think is a pretty good strategy for them, just because this is a pretty highly anticipated movie. So I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to go to theater to watch it, and I think a lot of people are going to see it on video on demand. But the first trailer was really legit. As a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, I really enjoyed the trailer. I thought it had a lot of really cool Easter eggs. I'm excited to see what comes from it. Dave, I'm not super sure how familiar you are with Five Nights at Freddy's.
Not at all, but it it looks cool enough, and sounds fun. Again, I as I always say, I'm I'm very humored by the fact that I feel like there are going to be people that think this is a movie for kids and take their kids to it, and they're going to be like, uh-oh. And but and it's got Matthew Lillard in it, so I really, otherwise I don't care. I'm good just on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's got Matthew Lillard, can't beat that. And then the other guy that's in it, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was in Hunger Games. He played PETA. Oh God, Five Nights at Freddy's. Josh Hutcherson. Yeah. I like Josh Hutcherson a lot. I really enjoy his work as well. I think he's a really convincing actor. He's also like a kid actor who did a lot of cool stuff like Zathura, Bridge to Terabithia, like a bunch of really cool stuff like when I was a kid. So I have a very special place in my heart for him. So I'm really excited to see him as well. But all right, folks. So you have heard the news. You have heard the releases. You have heard the birthdays and anniversaries. So all that you can do now is follow us on social media, because if you follow us on social media, you'll keep track of all these releases and whatnot. So please do that. We really appreciate it. But when we come back, we're going to be reviewing our surprise movie review of Unwelcome.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes. All right, and we're back here on Listen to Their Screams. This episode, we are reviewing the movie Unwelcome that is out on Shudder, not Shutter like the window thing, Shudder like the fear shake. And like I said, this was a surprise to us because we thought we were going to be reviewing Quicksand. There was a mix-up on the dates, so we ended up watching Unwelcome. And I have to say, Overall, while it was not the greatest movie of all time, I was pleasantly surprised by Unwelcome. It didn't disappoint me, really. The description says married couple Maya and Jamie escape their urban nightmare to the tranquility of Ireland, only to discover a malevolent and murderous goblins lurking in the gnarled ancient wood at the foot of their new garden. It is written by Mark Stay and John Wright and directed by John Wright. Now, this movie was originally released January 27th in Ireland, the UK, and now has come stateside and worldwide, of course, via Shudder. It is exclusive to Shudder, and it is described as a folk horror movie because it has goblins or whatever you want to call them in it. I don't recall the name they give them. There's a name for them in the movie. I don't recall that. Maybe I should have jotted that down. But these goblins that are in the movie, and the movie it starts off with this couple living. They live in London, and and they're obviously this kind of this in sync couple. Things are going well. They're young. They're vibrant. They've been trying to have a child, have not had luck, and then they find out she's pregnant. Well, when they find out she's pregnant, the husband goes to the shop down in the block there or whatever, and to buy something to drink to celebrate. There are some thugs who he has a run-in with. He kind of has words with them. They end up breaking into the house and trying to kill the two of them. Then it pans forward. They find out his, I think it was his aunt, had passed away. She had no kids, and she left this cottage in Ireland to the couple. So they're all happy because there's this beautiful cottage in this village with a garden and everything else. They get away from the city, which has kind of haunted them after that attack and the fear they had. And they think they're getting this wonderful fresh start. She's pregnant. They have this beautiful land, and then there's some weird stuff where there's this woman that says they have to leave this offering thing for these creatures that protect and watch over them and whatever. And she promises she will, but then she doesn't. Anyway, it's to me, I'm not going to give the verbatim the whole movie. Right. To me, though, some of the scariest parts of this movie were not the goblins or whatever, but it was some of the humans that were in this movie. The thugs at the beginning that tried to kill them, they were pretty vicious. The one guy that's in the family that's fixing the roof of the cottage who tries to kill the pregnant like Maya and everything else, he was pretty wicked. I mean, actually, that whole family was pretty twisted. They were, man. The human element was scary. I did spend almost 2/3 of this movie thinking, man, the movie was okay, but I'm like, when are we getting to some of the stuff, right? The horror stuff. They hadn't even really teased the goblin things very, very much. There wasn't a whole lot to it. And then it got to it, and man, in that last quarter or so of the movie, or whatever you want to say, they kind of went balls to the wall with these goblins. And I have to say that the goblins looked pretty good, and the effects were pretty good, and there was some gore, there was some gruesome kills, there was some blood, and it got pretty wicked. You knew where it was kind of going because the one family was coming for them, the weird family, and she went and ran out there and said that she would do anything if they would help her and protect her. Well, you kind of knew where that was going to go, right? What were the goblins going to want? They were going to want the baby. So you kind of knew. We talked about the Cannibal Cabin last week. I will say the baby in the birth of this one looked much better than the one in Cannibal Cabin. Much better done in the visual effects, and then there was an actual baby that they used after. So well done on that, I guess. We didn't have to knock a plastic baby 2 episodes in a row. So I'm just kind of rambling as I kind of remember my way through the movie. So give me some of your initial feedback and response here to the movie Unwelcome.
Absolutely. Real quick, I was trying to find the name because there is a name that they have. It's like it's like kind of like a Latin name almost, but the name that they also call them are red caps, the creatures.
Yeah.
But there's another name, and I cannot seem to find it anywhere. But in any case, the red caps are like the kind of goblin-esque creatures that that we're kind of referencing to. But in terms of the movie, I quite enjoyed it. I was really surprised when I watched this movie. One of the things I was kind of surprised about was Hannah John Kamen, who plays the main character. She is honestly, I was surprised to see her in the movie. She was in Ant-Man and Wasp. She played Ghost in that movie. She was also in the Welcome to Raccoon City Resident Evil movie. She played the live-action version of Jill Valentine. So I was kind of interested to see her in this just because I feel like she kind of has sort of a higher profile now, kind of with the movies that she's been in.
She was good.
But yeah, she was. Absolutely. She was very well acted. I did not know that she was, British or English, whatever. So that was interesting to see. But in terms of the film itself, like you said, I kind of started the movie not really sure what the movie is going to be about. Obviously I avoided any spoilers because this was a complete surprise, so that's a good thing. So I did not have the movie spoiled for me. So when I went into it, I had no idea what was going on. You start watching it, you kind of get the context, like you said. He goes to get the drink, to celebrate their pregnancy. They come back, they get attacked, and obviously they want to move out of the city. So they move to the suburbs or whatever, the countryside, and they're like, wow, this is, all the people are really nice to them. There is some weird folk, but it's like, okay, most of the people here are cool. They're giving us, free drinks, and they're, doing all this other stuff. But then they go to a local family called the Whalen family to try and get some, construction done on their home because the home's pretty run down. Because apparently the aunt who owned the place before was a little nutty, and she didn't really like to do any home improvement projects. And the Whalens are obviously just a very troubled folk. They're very akin to kind of rednecks in our country. I guess they're like Irish rednecks, something like that. But the Whalens, they kind of present themselves as sort of that stereotypical like redneck-esque person. And one of them is sort of they're developmentally delayed, I believe. It's actually played by he plays another character. His name's Christian Narn, and he plays Hodor in Game of Thrones, who is also sort of like developmentally delayed, I guess, would be the polite way to put it. And but yeah, I mean, the movie, it definitely it presents itself as one thing, because I definitely thought that the main villains of this were going to be the Whalens, and then they kind of were to an extent, but the kind of the grander picture is the supernatural creatures that are sort of there throughout the whole story. The aunt supposedly had a baby that was killed by the Redcaps, or was taken by the Redcaps, and everyone kind of thought that she killed the baby. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of develops into, well, so there might be something to that superstition about the Redcaps. And the story very much slowly but surely developed into like, okay, the Redcaps are real, the Whalens are crazy, and nobody's helping these people. And like Dave said, the main character makes an appeal to the Redcaps. I'll give you anything if you help us. And the Redcaps show up and they clean house. I mean, they kill all three of the people there. They killed the other Whalen family member that was assaulted, Maya. And so, I mean, it really was sort of like this weird, like you're rooting for the bad guy kind of thing. Because clearly the Redcaps, and it's also kind of weird because it's like, are the Redcaps really bad guys? This is just kind of what they do. You know what I mean? Like, you made a deal with them to help you, and you didn't really want to fulfill your end of the deal, which is understandable, but you did make a deal with them. But then ultimately, and I did not see this twist coming, the main character goes to the Redcaps hideout and finds a human down there who is very old and decrepit. And it is the aunt's child who we had thought had died.
Yep.
And, Maya kills her or them, and then becomes the leader of the Redcaps, is what I'm assuming that ritual was at the end there. So,
yeah, it was a little
It was
odd.
very... it was. They had like a skull full of blood. It was floating. It was dumped on her, and it was unique. It was an interesting movie. I really had no idea where it was going from any point. But Dave honestly nailed it when he said that the last quarter of the movie was like just nuts. Balls to the walls, bloody, gory, vicious. People's guts are falling out of their stomachs.
Yeah.
Where people are getting stabbed, shot point blank with a shotgun. I mean, the whole nine. So it really was. It was quite the predicament that they got themselves into, and it was very interesting to see it unfold.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was very peculiar because like the whole first act, you get very sympathetic for these two, and what they went through, and then you get you're hopeful, right, that they have this chance to start new, and everything looks like okay, it's working now, right. The second act, you start kind of getting the I don't know, it's like the stew is stirred, and you're starting to question, okay, what's going on here, right? This village and this home is not exactly what you thought, and the family really they amp up as they go to help. The dad of the family is calm Meany, who was on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, played Chief O'Brien, by the way, which it was so creepy. He kept saying that to call him daddy, and it was so weird. But
That was very weird.
yeah, I mean the whole second act, right? This family you're starting to really dislike them, and you knew something was going to happen with them. You kind of knew these red caps were lurking, and you thought, what's going to happen with this? And then when it ultimately gets to the point where it's like the red caps rescue this couple from the family, and it's almost like, okay, they're not. You have the feeling they're not bad, right? They're not good. They helped. They did what they were asked to do, and that's that. And again, like we said, you knew what was happening, right? You knew they were going to come for the baby, and they give you that brief moment as they start that third act of the movie, where you feel like, okay, the family, the couple now is happy, right? They've got through this. They're starting to clean up the home. They've got through. They've had this baby. They're starting to. It's almost like they're starting to feel a peace, right? That hope's coming back, and then then it's just then it gets really even wilder and even weirder almost, because you saw this killing and all this blood, and then they take the baby, and she goes after them and makes the deal, and what we assume becomes a leader, like Ike said, and it's a little odd, and then that's where that's kind of where it ends, right? That okay, there's apparently now this balance, this calmness, right? That they will she'll probably continue to give the offering. She's the leader. They'll get to live their life, and nothing will bother them because apparently they have these goblins watching their back now. And so, and again, it's not the greatest movie I've ever seen in the world. It was very well done, very well acted. The effects all looked really good. Nothing in it, looked hokey or see through. It was all believable enough, even, right? The goblins, looked good. The kills looked good. There wasn't anything that was forced in it that made you roll your eyes, right? It was all done really well, and it was, like I said, it was you thought there was parts of it that were kind of predictable, but then that whole ending was not predictable at all, right? You knew they were. I really assumed that the movie was going to end with them coming to take the baby, and that's where it would end, right? With them the right. Despair, the baby's gone, and roll credits. And then there was this whole other little bit that was like, oh, what is this? This is weird. So just when you thought you had it figured out, they threw a little screw job in there and did something even different. So, but like I said, it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. Especially for us being in this position that we watched it suddenly, I was pleasantly surprised, because sometimes when you are backed in a corner and have to pick something out of the blue and go with it and hope for the best, sometimes it doesn't work, and I was pleasantly surprised by this. I was looking forward to watching Quicksand, but I think I was pleasantly surprised by Unwelcome. I had no idea what to expect, and it was fun. It was a fun watch. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Especially since this was not a planned movie we were thinking about watching. It was definitely one of those, hey, well, let's find something to watch, sort of a last minute type thing. And I think that in terms of best case scenario, this was probably best case scenario. That it was not a bad movie at all. It was very enjoyable. And like you said, it could have definitely been a worse movie. I could definitely say that much. we could have had another. What was the movie we watched last week? Cannibal Cabin. It could have been
Yeah,
another
Cannibal
Cannibal
Cabin.
Cabin for all we knew.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely was not. Yeah, it very much for us had that feel of you pull up a streaming service, you're scrolling through, trying to find something to watch. You're just panning through the horror movies. You're like, what is this? I don't know what this is. I've never watched this. What the hell? Let's go with it and see what happens. And you give it a watch. Just why not on a whim? I got a couple hours to spare, and when you get through it, you're like, oh, okay, that was not bad. That was pleasantly surprised. So good stuff. Um, so like I said, uh, I the part that really got me the most about this, and then I've said it a couple times, is I was so afraid that with having these creatures, and when it got to the point where I was like, oh, okay, there's going to be some kills and maybe some gore, I was so afraid that we were gonna get that cheesy hokey stuff, right? That
Right.
it was gonna take me out of it, and it didn't happen. And we talked last episode where a filmmaker, a director, and whatever everybody pretty much associated with making a film, you have to know how to play to your strengths and hide your weaknesses. And I think they did that in this movie very, very well. The main actress was definitely a strength of this, and she led this movie. This movie was carried on her back, and her character and where her character went, as she was portrayed as a very strong character. Um, and the husband, was very vulnerable. And I'm not saying that to belittle him, but he was the one that was having the trauma, and she was
Right.
being very understanding, but it was here she was pregnant, and all this was going on, and she was helping him. She was shouldering a lot, and she was doing it right. She was carrying it on, and even when they warned her not to, no, don't, she should not be alone with this family. She was still feeling compassion for this character when he was showing, that his weakness and some of his sorrow for not his family mistreating him and calling him stupid, and she was trying to make him feel better, and it put her in this bad spot that almost cost her life. But she was I felt like she was again, we talked last week with Cannibal Cabin how there was not character development. We didn't feel invested in any characters. We really didn't know who was who. We didn't care who was who. They were interchangeable. This movie didn't have that. It was very different. There was distinct. You really did not like this creepy family. You really,
Right.
you really felt sympathy. At least I did, for the husband in the situation. What he saw, what he witnessed, how he felt. Where he couldn't help his wife and almost saw her life taken, and there was nothing he could do about it, and what that did to him, and you really felt, her. I really was invested in her as this really strong, powerful character, and what she was going through, and there was all these things, all these obstacles being thrown at her, and one right after another, just more stuff for her to shoulder, and she was still, very, very strong. So I felt this was complete opposite. I felt very invested in these characters. I think they did a much better job. It was much better. I think the writing was better, the acting was better, and the character development was a head and shoulders better, and I think that's what got it for me, right? I cared about the characters, whether it was a positive or a negative care, depending on what the characters were. It made me want to see what was coming next, and it made me invested in, when the weird family finally got their comeuppance, and when she finally saved her baby, and and I mean, you can peel away. There's so many layers to this, right? A parent would do anything in the world for their child, and she did, right? She did multiple for her family multiple times, right? She made the deal with the goblins, the red caps. She went head on into their lair to rescue her baby. She did the blood ritual thing and became the leader to save her baby. I mean, she did whatever she had to do to protect her family, and well, hopefully nobody will be in a position to make a bargain with the goblin. I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? Of this doing whatever you can or whatever you have to for your family if the situation arose. I feel like it's very relatable.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would have to agree. One thing I wanted to add to that is that on top of just the general horror of rednecks, on top of the general horror of goblins, Dave made a good point. There's a lot of, I would say, subversive material here that kind of talks about, feeling vulnerable and feeling, not safe in your home, and basically the long-term effects of basically getting your shit kicked in a place that you feel safe, which is truthfully what happened. So yeah, I think that beyond the normal horror of this movie, there was also sort of that that subliminal horror that you don't really think about until after you've watched the movie. And you're like, it's kind of fucked up that happened, and then they basically had it happen again. But absolutely, it was very interesting to see just the lead up, to see the basically how they handled that initial trauma, but then also how they handled having that trauma again. And something Dave mentioned also, just briefly, that I wanted to touch on too, is that the main character, Maya, was not just, a pushover. She was not some standby character. She was able to run away from the bad guys while being pregnant. She was able to combat the bad guys while being pregnant. You know what I mean? And it was this whole story about how, neither of them were going to back down from this situation again. But really, the big story, in my opinion, was Maya really took on a life of her own and became something more than who her character was at the beginning. But yeah, I think that for a Shudder movie that we didn't intend to watch, it was very solid, very good.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it certainly more than I thought. So let's rate this thing. Oh, my dogs are very excited. Apparently, they enjoyed it as well. So if I'm rating this out of 5 screens, I'm gonna. We always go with 5 as middle of the road, fun movie, and everything else. So I'm going to give this one a 3.5. I think it's slightly above a general enjoyment for me. This was a fun movie. I really did enjoy it. I thought there was a lot going on, and I was much more invested than I really suspected I would be.
Yep, absolutely. I think I would have to agree. I'm also going to give this a 3.5. Like Dave said, 3 Screams is sort of that middle of the road kind of movie. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't spectacular. It was one of those movies you can enjoy, but it wasn't something that you're going to write home about. But I would give this a 3.5 because I do feel like there was a lot to give in this movie. And this movie honestly offered a lot of great content, a lot of great story, but also a very unique perspective on sort of a home invasion type movie. And it really evolved as the movie went along. So 3.5 out of 5 seems like a pretty fair rating if I do say so myself.
Yeah, so there you have it, in agreement, a 3.5 out of 5 for us on the movie Unwelcome. I advise or suggest that anybody, if you're looking for something to watch and don't know what it is, give it a shot. Again, I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. I really thought it was a fun movie to watch. And I went through part of it. I liked it as a movie. And then I thought, I thought that, I didn't know about the horror aspects. And then, like I said, that last bit of that movie, it really, really dove into it and finally got there for me. So 3.5 out of 5 for us on this movie. Next episode, though, Ike, we start the countdown in the look forward to Insidious Red Door, which is coming to theaters on July 7th. And that means next week we're going to do one of our franchise review episodes, and we're going to watch, rank, review, and discuss the first 4 Insidious movies. And I know you're excited. I know you're a big fan of the Insidious movies. And these franchise review episodes are always fun. But I really feel like this is more in your wheelhouse, Ike.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for the Insidious movies. I do have one gripe. I have no clue why Insidious Chapter 3 is literally streaming nowhere. Like,
yeah,
absolutely nowhere. So I either I'm going to have to go to storage and dig it out of storage because I have the DVD somewhere, or I'm going to buy it somewhere or rent it on YouTube or something. But this is wild to me. The other movies are streaming, I think, on HBO, Insidious Chapter 1 and 2 and Last Keys or whatever. But yeah, I'm super stoked for the new Insidious movie. My wife is super stoked for the Insidious movie. Insidious is one of her favorite movies, so we'll definitely be going opening weekend for that one. And I'm also obviously super stoked to do the series review. I love doing the series reviews, but I think especially when it's a movie that I really, really enjoy, that's especially in my wheelhouse, I think I'm gonna have some good perspectives hopefully next week. So don't hold me to that, just in case, like, I don't know, my brain dies or something. But I'm excited for it. I like our series reviews. I think that's probably one of my more favorite episodes that we do is when we rank a series and talk about each movie and whatnot.
Yeah, and this will be kind of unique because I mean I'm not, no disrespect to the Insidious or whatever, but the franchise episodes we've done so far. I mean we're talking, we've done the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, the Child's Play movies, the Scream movies. We've done some big franchises, right? Some iconic horror franchises, and this is a little unique because this is more of a more modern
Yeah.
franchise, and that we really haven't had a chance to dive into as much as, I mean, and pretty much the ones we've done have been kind of slasher franchises for the most part. So, and we'll get some of that too, because like we've discussed before, there's a new Saw movie coming out later in the year, so I'm sure we'll do a Saw franchise, and then this is also the 45th anniversary of the original Halloween this fall, and we're going to do a Halloween franchise episode in the fall. So we have more franchise episodes to look forward to. And those are more back in the slasher, quote unquote, type movies, or those kind of movies. This is different for us, right? This is kind of a different kind of franchise for us to dive into, and it'll be neat. It'll be fun. But again, the Red Door comes out in theaters July 7th, and next episode we are going to discuss the first 4 movies and rank and review, talk our way through them, and do all that fun stuff. So make sure you do not miss that. We have Insidious discussions galore the next 2 episodes, because then in 2 weeks, that means we will have the review of Insidious Red Door. So make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. And like we said earlier, follow us on all the social media platforms so that you can see all the goodies and everything that we post up on there. So, Ike, before we get out of here this week and move on to Insidious, anything you want to throw in there today?
I still can't get over that damn freaking baby from Cannibal Cabin. I literally, after that episode, I talked to my wife and I showed her like that part of that, and my wife, she was just, her only comment to me was, who on God's green earth thought that was a good idea?
I know it. It again boggles my mind because it would have been so easy. Just, you don't have to show the baby. The baby played. There wasn't a need to see the baby, right? I mean, they could have done the exact same thing. Oh, I don't know. Again, like I said, know your weaknesses and know how to creatively shoot and work around those weaknesses to hide them. And I don't know. It was odd to me. Unless you're just purposely, it didn't feel like a movie that would purposely want to show one of its flaws. I understand some movies are very, very tongue in cheek, and they want to,
Right.
something like that. They want to throw out there because it's a humor. It fits the gag of the movie. I didn't feel like Cannibal Cabin was trying to do that, but that's literally was my biggest takeaway from the movie, was that baby, and I was like, ooh. But thankfully, in Unwelcome, we had a baby scene, and the baby was much better. It was done much, much, much better. There was no plastic baby. Oh my. So
No
there you
plastic.
have it. If you're gonna make a horror movie, don't use a plastic baby, or at least try to hide it a little better, or do something. Be creative, because otherwise, that's gonna be the only thing we take away from that movie.
Yeah, literally though, that's the only thing I remember from Cannibal Cabin at this point. It's been about a week, almost. Yeah, it's been about a week since we watched it. So, only thing I remember is the fucking plastic baby. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we, as we starting this year, when we do like our year in review episode, right? Where we do for 2023, we'll do a review episode at the beginning of 2024. I feel like we didn't do it last year, but I feel like maybe we ought to start a segment where we, like a Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame, where we
Yeah.
kind of put not movies, but just moments or just takeaways from movies, and do like I don't know, 2 or 3 for the year that we're putting in the Hall of Fame, and 2 or 3 that we're putting in the Hall of Shame. Movies, and again, just specific moments, right? Not like movies overall, but just moments, scenes, lines, stuff like that. And I definitely think the baby would make the Hall of Shame for 2023. So that might be something we have to look at when we do our 2023 year in review, where we can hit
Absolutely.
the highs and lows of the films. And that's just not the knock, right? There could be a very, very good, great, big budget, big studio movie that could have something that gets in the Hall of Shame, right? They're not
They're not
impervious to
immune.
that. Yeah. So I've seen some bad stuff in some big budget movies. So all right, well that puts a wrap on Unwelcome and our shuffling of the deck and having to watch it, and it turned out pleasantly well. I'm very happy with it. So again, next week we are going to discuss the Insidious franchise in preparation for the release of Insidious: The Red Door, coming to theaters July 7th. But until then, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.